country anthem, but it's actually a terrified woman documenting her lover's slow, agonizing destruction. In the next few minutes, you'll discover the secret family betrayal that birthed the song, the controversial dream that brought in those famous horns, and how a track about burning in hell saved a dying career. Have you ever fallen for someone you knew was completely toxic? Think again about the lyrics you are blindly singing along to at weddings. Stick around, because in this deep dive, we explore the lockdown world of Nashville's darkest affairs, the tragic musical mechanics hidden within the song's famous mariachi horns, and the devastating irony of a masterpiece written by a woman watching the man she loved destroy himself. How does a legendary country anthem start out as a forgotten flop sung by the wrong sister? It begins with a quiet failure. To understand the immense power of Ring of Fire, you have to erase the image of Johnny Cash singing it. The man whose voice made the song immortal was not the first person to record it, and he wasn't the writer. In late 1962, Anita Carter recorded a folk country ballad called Love's Ring of Fire. Anita was part of the legendary Carter family. She had a crystal-clear voice, and her version was traditional, polite, and acoustic. Mercury Records released Anita's version in early 1963, and it completely flatlined. Radio stations barely played it. The record-buying public completely ignored it. It failed to chart, quickly disappearing into the massive pile of forgotten country singles. It was too quiet, too polite, and it lacked the dark, dangerous edge that the lyrics secretly demanded. But there was one man who could not stop listening to it. Johnny Cash was deeply intertwined with the Carter family, heavily touring with them across the country. He heard Anita's failed record and became absolutely obsessed with the melody. Cash approached Anita with a very specific, confident ultimatum. He told her he was going to give her record exactly 5 or 6 more months to break on the charts. If it didn't become a hit by then, he was going to take the song, change it completely, and record it his own way. He knew the song was a masterpiece because he knew exactly what it was really about. He knew the terrifying secret hiding behind the lyrics because the woman who wrote, they were writing about him. You might think Johnny Cash wrote his signature song, but the real author was hiding in the shadows, terrified of the man she was writing about. While Anita Carter first sang the song, it was co-written by her sister, June Carter, alongside Merle Kilgore. And June was living through an absolute nightmare. By the early 1960s, Johnny Cash and June Carter were spending weeks together on the road. The chemistry between them was undeniable and completely forbidden. Both were married with children. A public affair would have destroyed their families and careers in the conservative world of country music. But the romance wasn't even the darkest part. Johnny Cash was in the grip of a severe drug addiction. He swallowed handfuls of amphetamines to stay awake during grueling tours, washing them down with barbiturates and alcohol to fall asleep. He was a walking time bomb. One night, unable to sleep, June found herself driving aimlessly around the dark country roads of Tennessee. She was overwhelmed by a crushing realization. She was falling in love with a man actively killing himself. She later described the feeling as being physically burned. To love Johnny Cash, in 1963, was like stepping into a blast radius. You couldn't get close to him without getting scorched by his addiction. That night, she wrote down the words that would define their lives. Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. Reading those lyrics through the lens of June's reality completely changes the song. It is not a joyful celebration of romance. It is a terrified confession. She knew falling for John meant stepping into a literal hell, but the pull was so strong, she couldn't stop. Country music had strict rules in 1963. So how did a traditional singer force an entire Mexican brass section onto a Nashville record? He claimed it came from a dream. By the time Cash's deadline passed and Anita's version died, Cash was ready to make his move. His own career was in serious jeopardy. His drug use made him erratic, and he hadn't had a massive hit in years. Columbia Records was losing patience. He needed a miracle. At the time, the Nashville sound dominated country music. Producers churned out smooth, polished records, relying heavily on crying steel guitars and sweeping choirs. It was safe and predictable. Cash wants Ted to completely obliterate that sound. He claimed that one night, in a deep sleep, he had a vivid dream. In the dream, he heard June's song playing, but it was backed by a loud, aggressive horn section playing in a Mexican mariachi style. He brought the idea to his producer, Jack Clement. Bringing a mariachi brass section onto a country record was considered absolute insanity. It sounded too ethnic, too loud, and too weird for country radio. But Cash was stubborn. He wanted the track to sound triumphant, cinematic, and slightly menacing. Clement eventually caved and hired two local trumpet players. They were told to arrange a sharp, staccato horn line that would slice right through the heavy acoustic guitars. It was a massive gamble. Cash was betting his faltering career on a subconscious dream and a pair of brass instruments that had absolutely no business being on a country music record. When the time came to record, the man singing the lyrics was in such bad physical shape that the session almost felt like a family intervention. On March 25, 1963, Johnny Cash walked into Columbia Recording Studios in Nashville to lay the track down. The atmosphere was incredibly tense, heavy with unspoken secrets. Because the Carter family regularly toured with Cash, they were all in the studio that day. Mother Maybelle Carter played the auto harp. June Carter and her sisters, Anita and Helen, stood behind the microphones to sing backing vocals. Think about the staggering irony. June Carter was singing backup vocals on a song she wrote about her terrified, illicit love for a married drug addict, while that exact man stood just a few feet away, singing her words back to her, with her own mother playing the rhythm section. And then there was Cash's vocal performance. Because of the heavy toll the pills and alcohol were taking on his body, Cash's voice had deepened and roughened. He couldn't hit the higher, sweeter notes Anita had used. Instead, he dropped the song into his lower register. His delivery is grim, stoic, and completely devoid of joy. He sounds like a condemned man reading his own sentence. This created a brilliant, accidental musical tension. The mariachi trumpets are loud, upbeat, and celebratory. But floating right underneath those triumphant horns is Cash's exhausted, booming baritone, pulling the song down into the darkness. It sounds like a funeral march, disguised as a parade. The horns are the wild desire June wrote about, and Cash's voice is the heavy, destructive reality of the addiction pulling them under. The fire was finally captured on tape. The song became a massive global hit, but the fire it described eventually burned their old lives completely to the ground. When Columbia Records released Ring of Fire in April 1963, the gamble paid off. The loud, blasting mariachi horns completely shattered the polite Nashville sound. It didn't just become a country hit, it became a massive pop crossover phenomenon. It rocketed to #1 on the country charts and stayed there for 7 consecutive weeks. It became the biggest hit of Johnny Cash's career, permanently transforming him from a struggling, drug-addicted singer into a mythological icon. The mariachi horns became a staple of his sound, and the song resurrected his relationship with his label. But the lyrics proved to be prophetic. The Ring of Fire eventually consumed everything in its path. The undeniable connection between John and June could no longer be hidden. The guilt and pressure eventually caused both of their marriages to collapse in highly public divorces. The flames burned away their old lives entirely. Yet, against all odds, they survived the fire. In 1968, Johnny Cash proposed to June Carter on stage. She finally helped him get clean, physically locking away his pills and flushing his drugs. They stayed married for 35 years, until they passed away within months of each other in 2003. Ring of Fire remains one of the most misunderstood songs in music history. It is played at weddings all over the world by people who think it's a sweet metaphor for falling in love. But underneath the catchy trumpets and booming vocals lies a much darker truth. It is a monument to the terrifying danger of loving a broken person. It proves that sometimes the most beautiful art is born from the most destructive, toxic situations imaginable. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the mariachi horns completely made the song a masterpiece? And did you have any idea June Carter actually wrote the lyrics about Johnny's addiction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you want to uncover more dark secrets behind the biggest hits in history, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join us for the next deep dive. Thanks for watching.